This is WKYT News at 6:30 on the CW Lexington.
Good evening, live right here on the CW Lexington. I'm Sam Dick.
And I'm Jennifer Palumbo. We, along with the entire nation, continue to keep a close eye on Hurricane Matthew. Behind us, you can see just how big the storm is as it heads up the Florida coast.
Now, here's a rapid rundown. The steady march of Hurricane Matthew leaving more than 1 million people in Florida without power. Some more communities on the South Carolina coast imposing curfews as the winds and rains approach that state.
President Obama has declared a state of emergency in North Carolina.
Here's what else we're following right now at 6:30. Volunteers from Kentucky heading south today to lend a helping hand to those affected by Hurricane Matthew. WKYT's Hillary Thornton talked to Red Cross volunteers about their relief efforts.
A Central Kentucky family's Florida vacation plans had them taking shelter from the storm. How they're making the best of a difficult situation.
The town is very, very quiet this afternoon. This morning, everyone was, if they didn't have a good house, they were going to a better house somewhere else.
And Hurricane Matthew leaving death and destruction across southern Haiti. How a Central Kentucky missionary is helping there.
You know, like millions of people around this country, I'm sure you, because you do this for a living, woke up this morning, Jennifer, wondering, okay, where is it?
Right.
You know, turning on the TV and thinking, how bad did they get hit? It sounds like it could have been worse,
yeah.
Right? Much worse.
It could have been much worse, guys. I mean, it stayed off the coast, and that's where it continues to kind of dwell at this moment, not giving the full impact. Now, it's bad. I mean,
yeah.
Let's keep that in mind, but it's not as bad as it could have been. Right now, it is a Category 2 storm down to 110 miles per hour. Now, I say that because yesterday it was up to 145 miles per hour at times. So we have gone down significantly there with the maximum sustained winds. It's moving off toward the north around 12. There you see the center of circulation just jogging along, making, at least looks like if it continued on that track, it would make an impact there into South Carolina. However, it's going to veer back off the coast. Here's a closer look at it, just a different perspective, more of a 3D mode, where you can see the rain just wrapping in to Charleston all the way into Myrtle Beach. There you see Savannah as well, dealing with the rain and, of course, the high winds as well. Here's the hour-by-hour radar with the picture there. We go from 6 o'clock here this evening. You watch the rain wrapping in. This is a high-resolution model that updates every hour. See the heavy stuff showing up there in Savannah, Brunswick. You can see Charleston just behind the banner as well. So a very intense storm nonetheless, and this is trying its best to jog it right into the coast. The showers on the northwest flank also getting into eastern Kentucky, and they have been out there through parts of the day so far, and some of that cloud cover impacting eastern Kentucky as well. I'll track those chances and the rest of the 7-day forecast coming up here in just a little bit.
And remember, you can track Hurricane Matthew and our weather anytime with the WKYT Weather Plus traffic app. Download it for free from the app or Google Play stores. Well, to work as a meteorologist in Florida, you have to know hurricanes inside and out.
Rob Nucatola from our sister station WCTV is one of Florida's best. He continues our team coverage.
A gigantic difference by just 50 miles. We've made it to Gainesville. It took us a good couple hours to go 70 miles just to find some fuel since leaving Daytona early this morning when the weather was really starting to get rough. We had 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. There were reports more than 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. 50 miles from where we are right now are getting some of those more significant rain bands and heavy winds. In Gainesville, it's breezy, it's rainy, but it's nothing like they're getting just a little bit farther to the east. And the difference between I-95 and I-75, gigantic. I-95, not passable. I-75, very drivable. And that's because the storm itself staying out to sea, mirroring the coast and working its way very slowly up to the north. Areas along the first coast, areas of coastal Georgia, they're in for the worst of the weather as it turns afternoon, turns evening, turns nighttime. Areas to the west are just barely getting scraped. I'm meteorologist Rob Nucatola in Gainesville.
Rob, thank you. Hundreds of people from Kentucky are headed to areas affected by Hurricane Matthew to try and help with that long process of rebuilding. Electric
linemen are already in Florida helping restore power. WKYT's Hillary Thornton talked to Red Cross volunteers who left the bluegrass this morning. She continues our team coverage.
As Hurricane Matthew continues on, some volunteers from here in the Bluegrass State are heading south, a decision they say was simple as they strive to do any little thing they can to help those impacted.
Kentucky.
These linemen from the Davis H. Elliott Company in Florida to help restore power. They are just a few of the many Kentuckians helping those reeling from Hurricane Matthew.
Each disaster is so different, and it affects people differently.
Kathy Hoff, one of the Red Cross volunteers deploying south from the Bluegrass State. She's helped out in various disasters in the U.S. and even overseas.
Straight out of college, I went to Vietnam with the Red Cross, and I spent a year there. And ever since, you know, the Red Cross has a very special place in my heart, and you know, somebody needs to go, and it might as well be me.
David Silver, another Red Cross volunteer.
I received an email requesting volunteers.
Without hesitation, replying yes to that email today, catching a flight to Columbia, South Carolina, an area where he says he has longtime friends.
Makes it much more personal.
There he expects to be placed at shelters, helping those who are temporarily displaced, or unfortunately, those who have lost their homes.
You have to help others when they're needed. That's why we're here.
In Lexington, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
And 3 members of the Lexington Fire Department are arriving in Lakeland, Florida this hour. They are part of an 80-person deployment by Ohio Task Force 1.
The hurricane has ruined a Lexington family's vacation in Florida. Becky Miner and her family had to reroute their Cocoa Beach vacation to hunker down with family in Titusville. They waited out the storm in a closet, and this morning they saw the brunt of it move through. The Miners talked to us late this afternoon through FaceTime. They're now on the road to Orlando.
I promised my son we would go to Harry Potter, so I have a good friend who said Disney World. She said the park should be open tomorrow.
The Miners are hoping for a smooth ending to what they say has been an unforgettable trip.
The Jessamine County Sheriff's Office is asking for the community's help after some people reported softball-sized rocks being thrown at them while traveling down US 27. The first one happened Tuesday night. Deputies say a Jeep parked in the emergency lane was hit with softball-sized rocks several times. The Sheriff's Office has also received 6 more calls from people traveling northbound saying a man in all white was throwing rocks at drivers. Deputy Alan Peel says he's never seen anything like it.
Fortunately, no one was hurt, no accidents occurred from this, but as you can well imagine, vehicles traveling this road at 55 to 60 miles an hour being struck by a rock through the windshield is very disturbing and distracting.
The Sheriff's Office plans to step up patrols in that area. Anyone with information should contact the Jessamine County Sheriff's Office.
The U.S. Attorney's Office hopes new videos will clear up misconceptions about heroin, opioids, and those who use them. The videos will be sent to schools across Kentucky to be shown to students. WKYT's Victor Puente talked to a family featured in one of the videos who doesn't want other families to go through what they have.
The U.S. Attorney hopes these videos will let people hear firsthand accounts from people who've battled heroin addiction and from those who've lost loved ones to the drug. The videos, posted on YouTube, each tell the story of a person or family impacted by heroin. One of those families, the Hulsings, spent 2 years trying to get their daughter Elizabeth help.
And she did admit to us on Christmas Eve of 2012 that she had been using heroin.
Elizabeth eventually moved to Florida, where she was part of a PhD program at the University of Miami. But during a trip home, she reconnected with some old friends and ended up overdosing.
At 24, she took what she thought was heroin, but it was fentanyl, and it stopped her heart and killed her.
The Hulsings agreed to take part in the videos because they don't want another family to go through what they have. United States Attorney Kerry Harvey says these stories will be shared to schools and social media, trying to let people know that there is no typical heroin user.
They have to be really aware of who their kids are around, because we didn't see it coming.
So we just want to try to save some family from having to lose, a daughter. My 3 kids have lost their oldest sister.
All of those videos will be posted on the U.S. Attorney's website. We'll have a link on WKYT.com. In Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
The Hulsings say the man responsible for their daughter's death was sentenced to 14 years in prison on federal charges.
The official grand opening today for UK's new Gatton College of Business and Economics. The renovation and expansion of the facility added new high-tech classrooms, a simulated trading floor, and places for students to work on projects. It's the first building on UK's campus to be paid for entirely through philanthropic projects.
A Kentucky missionary is keeping an eye on Hurricane Matthew's aftermath in Haiti. WKYT meteorologist Jim Caldwell joins us in less than 3 minutes to break down the news about where the storm is headed next.
And the Wildcats looking for revenge against those Vanderbilt Commodores tomorrow. Dave Baker looks at what's at stake later in the Sports Buzz. Welcome back to WKYT News here at 6:30 on the CW in Lexington. Hurricane Matthew hit really close to home for a Lexington woman.
Diane Cornelius runs a missionary service to Haiti. She has a colleague there right now, and it's been difficult for her to reach them. WKYT's Hillary Thornton has the story.
And this is just some damage of some of the homes within that village. And you can clearly see that trees are down, their fences are down.
Diane Cornelius is describing the powerful punch Hurricane Matthew laid on the island of Haiti. Cornelius had her flight canceled to the ravaged nation. She and her colleague Jody Castillo are missionaries to the people of Haiti. Castillo lives on the island and is giving Cornelius updates of the storm's devastation when she can.
Well, she has said that her village is just completely destroyed. I mean, they are, they're trying to pick up the pieces. Even as of yesterday, around 11 a.m., they were not even able to get out because it was so muddy. The mudslides coming down from the mountains. She lives near a mountain range, and just the mud coming down just flooded the streets.
Castillo says the internet and the power, if any, is spotty. The only way the two can communicate is through an app called Voxer, sort of like voicemail. This is Castillo's view of what's going on.
The town is very, very quiet this afternoon. This morning, everyone was, if they didn't have a good house, they were going to a better house somewhere else. One church already lost the roof to their place.
In a poor country that is still trying to get over a major earthquake 6 years ago, now they have to deal with another devastating blow that will no doubt have long-lasting effects.
Right now, just getting them strong enough to start clearing out the roads and rebuilding their homes.
In Lexington, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
And we're in the First Alert Weather Center now with meteorologist Jim Caldwell. Jim, where is the hurricane right now, and where do you think it's headed?
Well, it's right off the coast right now, just parallel with Jacksonville at this point in time. You can kind of see that in our graphic that's right there just hanging out. Now, the projection will take it up the east coast, and right now it's been moving around 12 miles per hour toward the north. But once it gets closer to South Carolina, guys, it gets caught up in a flow, and it changes direction a little bit. Now, if you notice, we call this our margin of error, that cone. Look at the cone. The center goes right off the coast. But keep in mind that we have that margin of error there for a reason. It very well could make a landfall there.
So hurricanes have different zones, or quadrants, as meteorologists call them.
Right.
So what is the worst zone, and how does this one compare?
Now, this one, we're kind of lucky because we're not in the worst side of this. You get in that northeastern quadrant and things look a little bit worse. Check out this graphic as well. We'll kind of break it down and show you zone by zone what happens with this. Storm moving to the north, just like the one we have right now. Well, if you're in that right side of that northeast quadrant, that's where you find the strongest winds, and if it's making landfall, that's where you would find tornadoes sparking up. That would be the dangerous zone to be in. You get in that other side, which is where we've been, that's the storm surge zone, which is where Florida has been in regards to this particular situation. You also get into the southeast, where you still have some significant winds because it's usually coming straight off the water, and then what you could call the weakest. And I use the word weakest very loosely here. You're still in danger if you're in that flank, but you have 4 different quadrants that we look at that all have very different elements when setting up a weather situation like this. Matthew will and has been impacting our weather out there so far. We're tracking tropical rains into eastern Kentucky. We had some clouds showing up. We also have some showers also in that area. We likely run into it tonight, and by tonight I mean overnight and early tomorrow morning as well. So we'll run into at least a little bit of rain in those areas. Now, as we advance into tomorrow afternoon, those rain chances disappear because a front will sweep across Kentucky and changes everything. We were talking about Matthew. It's 110 miles per hour, Category 2 storm. You can see it just churning along the east coast. The frontal boundary that's going to deflect Matthew is the same one that brings us all of our change. And all it's doing right now, because Matthew's stealing all the moisture, is it's increasing cloudiness. That's about it, and that's what I think happens around here as well. So here comes the front, sweeps through as we go through the night. There you see those showers I was talking about showing up into eastern portions of Kentucky. little cloud cover with the front, and then it works its way off the coast and pushes Matthew along the way. And Matthew, of course, weakens a lot more by then. It becomes a tropical storm and gets even weaker. High pressure moving in behind it replaces this very warm air mass with some very cool air that will be pushing into the area. How cool? All right, we're at 80 right now in Lexington. Look at what we're tracking behind the front. We'll get, of course, a modified dose of this, a modified dose of 40s. Keep in mind that we are in the middle of the day, in the middle of the peak heating of the day, I should say, in these areas, and it's only in the low to mid 40s in those locations. High pressure with some 60s as well. That is how much cooler. So we'll be in the mid 60s, upper 60s for highs as we advance into the day tomorrow. Here's what our 7-day forecast looks like for us. Very pleasant, all in all. A very small chance of a rogue shower or two. And that includes some of the moisture coming in from Matthew. That also includes the front itself making its way across Kentucky, though I really think it's going to be more of a cloud maker than anything else. Mid-60s for a few days, and then we recover, guys, as we head into next weekend. We're back into the low to mid-70s, which is very close to where we should be.
For the game.
Seasonal, yes.
All right, Buzz. We'll get to you in a second. For the game, not bad weather. I mean,
looks great, I think.
It looks fantastic. A little cool on you there that time of the evening, especially. So just be ready for that. Why do you laugh at me when I say that?
Football weather. That's what it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
All right, you'll have your chance, Buzz. Just hang on. The Cats are hoping for a big win over the Commodores. Dave Baker is so excited. He's talking right now. He's breaking it down next in the Sports Buzz.
Ready or not, time now for the Sports Buzz.
Dave Buzz Baker joining us with an inside look at what's going on. Another must-win for the Kentucky Wildcats, and they want revenge for last year.
They do. It's going to be really interesting. You know, Mark Stoops said earlier this week that loss to Vanderbilt last year will probably bother him for the rest of his life. It was a game they had won. If they had won that game, they come back and get Charlotte, and they get their 6th win. But what about that? You know, they had a lot of missed opportunities. But how about this year? You know, Kentucky outgained Vanderbilt 352 to 301. They had 3 drop passes. Drew Barker comes off the bench and throws a touchdown, but then he throws a pick. But Ralph Webb this year, he's the leading rusher in the SEC, 582 yards. Vandy's Derek Mason still looking for his first road win. And in the Nashville paper, when they're talking about the preview and they're talking about how important the punters ought to be, that ain't a good thing.
No.
That ain't a good thing. But I still think it'll be a good day for the Cats.
Why is Vanderbilt always a problem for Kentucky? Whether it's there or here.
Because it's easy as an athlete. Okay, somebody tells you can't do something, you're going to do everything you can to do it. That's what happened last week against Alabama. Well, now you're supposed to beat Vanderbilt, and it's a different mindset, and a team just got to mature and do it. All right, let's talk about this Florida-LSU game, okay? They canceled the game, okay, and it looks like the weather's going to be fine in Gainesville. And LSU offered to pay Florida to come to LSU play the game Sunday night. Florida offered to cancel a game and play it on November 19th. They couldn't come to an agreement. Florida players say that they still have family in harm's way. The LSU folks and some other people from the SEC are saying, now hold it now. Okay, if they don't play, and let's say Florida's got a 6-1 league record and Tennessee's got a 6-2 league record, then Florida gets the SEC Eastern Division Championship. This one is going to be really interesting to see, and here's why. Because the big game tomorrow, you'll see it right here on KYT at 3:30, Texas A&M and Tennessee. Great game. Both of these teams are 5-0. Tennessee 5-0 again. Texas A&M 5-0 for the 3rd straight year. But what's happened before is the last 2 seasons they've started off 5-0, and then they've just gone in the tank. Well, this looks like an entirely different Texas A&M team. They've got stability, and then John Chavis, the defensive coordinator at A&M, was the longtime defensive coordinator at Tennessee.
And then after A&M, they have Alabama.
That's exactly.
So they lose those 2 games, and the SEC could have this nightmare scenario with Florida and Tennessee.
Oh, these never played. These Tennessee fans are going crazy about this game not being played. And then finally, you want to talk about people going crazy? Guess who's coming back? Tiger Woods about a month ago said that he was going to return to play. He'll come back and play for the first time next week at the Safeway Open. It's out at Silverado Country Club in Napa Valley. He hadn't played in over a year because of those back problems. After the great success of the U.S. Ryder Cup team and all the interest in it, if this guy comes back, it'll do nothing but help the game of golf and those who love it.
He didn't get to play in the Ryder Cup, but he was there, and he was part of it, and you have to think that it just made him want to get back into it that much more.
He was one of those guys that had a girl there when they were kissing at the end, unlike Ricky Fowler.
In the picture.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you, Buzz.
Thanks.
Next on the CW Lexington, an hour of Family Feud, then 2 hours of the iHeartRadio Music Festival, followed by Today at Keeneland with Dave Baker at 10 o'clock.
Over on WKYT MacGyver at 8, Hawaii 5-0 at 9, Blue Bloods at 10, followed by WKYT News at 11.
Finally, take a look at this. A fall tradition is back in the Bluegrass. Keeneland's Fall Meet opened today by marking a major milestone. The race course is celebrating its 80th anniversary.
And this is Fall Star Weekend at Keeneland, which features 17 graded stakes and 8 Breeders' Cup Challenge races. Today, thousands of people enjoyed the races. And brought to you by Jim Caldwell, beautiful weather.
Not Chris Bailey, because he missed out.
He was probably at Keeneland today enjoying this fantastic weather.
The timing works out too well.
He's always off when the weather is perfect because he knows.
It was a huge crowd. I was out there for noon, and they've got Fall Stars weekend, as you mentioned, all weekend. One thing that people ought to do is the race recap show with Mike Battaglia at 10 o'clock tonight, and then go out for breakfast at the Works in the morning. You can get out there by the track. It's the best breakfast in town. It's really inexpensive. It's a neat sort of deal.
And it looks like great weather for this weekend.
Oh, it's going to be great. And it's going to be a little bit cooler compared to where we've been. It was 80 degrees,
not
David.
Cool, but cooler.
Yes, David. It was 80 degrees today, so tomorrow's going to be 67. I mean, you'll notice that change. It'll kind of hit you in the face.
Be fresh.
But it will be fresh.
Yes.
It'll feel wonderful out there. But we're back to the 70s by next week as well. So
Cats beating Vandy on Saturday night?
I think they do. As long as they hold on to the football. As long as we don't have any bad kickaways, I think they win the game.
All right. Go Cats. Thanks so much for joining us tonight for WKYT News at 6:30.
Have a great weekend.